Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the CK Podcast, bringing you live again from 11 to 12 every single Saturday. No Dustin today. He was really sick from his throat, but we have E-Man on the other line. What's up, brother?
I'm back. I'm feeling good. Last week I was stuck with the sore throat.
It's just crazy weather. It's sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's windy, sometimes it's cold, and all these evil things in the air are really, really getting to us. As a matter of fact, when you left the office yesterday to Top Golf, I was feeling a lot of discomfort in my tonsil, my left tonsil, and I was like, dude, I got to go home. And today I feel better, man, but this weather, man, it's crazy, but it's not as crazy as the NBA Finals because they were a complete embarrassment. Let's keep it real. You know, on this show, we always keep it real. And I was not happy with how the Cavs came out. They came out lethargic, is a nice word for them. And to be honest, I think they gave up. Thoughts about that?
I thought the series was over after game one. Not a lot like the Raptors Cavs series. You know, after game one, like their heart was stripped from them, and the series was over since then. It's just like what a heartbreak loss, and the series was just over. But I did catch a little bit of yesterday. I did see LeBron leave super early, like with 4 minutes left, and I was like, all right, they're just giving up. That's disgraceful. This is the finals we're talking about. You fight until the buzzer ends.
But I blame the Celtics for all this because they should have taken care of business in Game 7. So we have to blame them for all of this.
That's true.
So I encourage fans to call in at 209-565-3079. Again, that's 209-565-3079. I want you guys to call in, join the conversation, and I really want to hit on Marvin Bagley. He's working out for the Kings on Monday. That's big news. But we kind of suspected that because E-Man was pretty spot on. He said, well, you said that all the prospects are making their rounds and the East Coast came first. And now I believe it was yesterday that he worked out with the Phoenix Suns. So we kind of figured that the Kings were next. So, and then the news broke, and yeah, he's coming on Monday. Are you excited? I know we haven't had another vlog since because we've had a bunch of second rounders, and we kind of already hit that topic on that first vlog in terms of the pre-draft workouts. What do you expect from this day? I know they're always quick. You get there, you see a little bit, and again, this is a disclaimer. We don't actually watch the workouts because the agents won't allow it and the teams won't allow it as well. But we do get to see a little bit of their athleticism towards the end, if they're shooting drills or not. And then we get to talk to them about the workout.
Yeah, I am so excited to watch Marvin Bagley and just to meet the guy. I mean, just, get face to face with him, see what type of guy he is, type of motor he has off the floor. That's going to be big, the locker room presence. We know, me and Leo know a lot about locker room presence, so we'll get a glimpse of that talking to Marvin Bagley. I mean, what do you expect to see from him, Leo?
Honestly, again, just regurgitating what you just said, I'm looking forward to meeting him, seeing what his personality is like. I know last year I fell in love with Donovan Mitchell's personality, and I was convinced, which is why I had him so high on my mock draft, that he was the guy at number 10. He showed a lot of intellectual ability to conversate with the media, which I think is huge. And then you continue to see that when he was on Stephen A's halftime show or pregame show for the NBA Finals, and how he talked about the European style offense that they ran and how he neglected Stephen A, comparing him to LeBron James in terms of being the only guy that can just carry a team. No, he pretty much shut him down and said, you know what, this is a team effort and we all contributed and we run a system in place. And, shout out to Quinn Snyder for that. So I thought that was just phenomenal for him to respond in that professional manner. And to me, it just shows how bad the Kings and the Pistons and all these teams and all these teams messed up with by not selecting him. I mean, the Pistons, they went with Luke Kennard. I mean, come on. At least the Kings have some hope with Harry Giles, but come on, Luke Kennard. Please, go ahead, you man.
That's just it's a shame. It's a shame. I mean, I think, but you were one of the few who to say take Donovan at 10. Everyone was like, 12, 13 was a good spot to take him because he was a positionless guard. We didn't know if he was a point guard or shooting guard, and on the Kings, we don't know if he would have fit playing the 2 guard, but knowing you have Bogdanovich and Buddy Hield already there and Garrett Temple.
Yeah, and I was having that conversation with some Kings fans on Facebook last night, Mike and Tony, and I pretty much said, I know last year the big consensus was you don't take a guard because you had Malachi, Buddy, and Bogey, and I always say you got to take the best player available, and just allow the alpha dog to come out of the pack, right? And then everything else will take care of itself. We have not seen that, and they elected to go away from that pretty much and draft positionally with Justin Jackson, which I thought was a mistake. And as much as I love Justin Jackson as a human being, I think he's probably one of the, if not the best person on the team in terms of being responsible and being a great man, a man of God, and that counts. But at the same time, I just thought having a defensive presence like a Donovan Mitchell, I know you and I, we always have these passionate conversations that are never recorded, and I feel like those would be gold, and people would love those. And we talked about how much he took it upon himself in terms of dignity and pride that I don't want to allow someone to score 20, 30 points on me. That's my job, to keep them as minimum as possible. Taking pride on defense, to me, that matters. And he wasn't talking about stats and offensive stats, because at the end of the day, if you're about the team, that leads to winning. That's in conjunction with winning. If you're about offensive stats, for the most part, for 7 years, we kind of saw that, 28 and 10 was not enough to win games. And I'm not throwing DeMarcus under the bus. I'm just throwing every offensive player who puts up meaningless stats, and that doesn't just and that doesn't convey into winning.
That's true. I mean, and then tomorrow, Monday, when we do see Bagley, if the Kings were to draft him, I think they would be drafting for a position that's kind of filled. I don't know if it is, but depending on Harry Giles and if Willie converted to a 4 last season, and then you have Scal there and Zebo. So, like you said, if the Kings did draft Marvin Bagley, we would see the top dog come out and take that position.
Right. And how do you feel about Willie pretty much saying that the team needs a small forward? Do you feel like he's afraid of the new draft prospect in terms of the bigs, or do you feel like he really wants a small forward?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think he personally feels like he is the center / power forward of the Kings, and that the Kings really do need a wing. Like it's a need. Justin Jackson was disappointing last season, to say the least. He still has hope, but I wasn't surprised by Willie's comments. I expected
Real
him
quick,
to.
we have a caller, and what's up, Noah? How you doing?
Good. Hey, not really. I don't want to get on top of him by talking, but not a big fan here of Bagley. Was talking about it in the little chat side.
Right.
If you look at him, you got to remember that he's got coming from Duke, so he's got one of the greatest coaches in college, Coach K. Could get nothing out of him on defense. The reports came out about him running the same zone that Syracuse runs simply because Bagley wouldn't do anything on defense. So, team that with him being so left-hand dominant in the NBA, they're going to force him to go right all the time. I just don't see him being able to bring his offensive game on the right side while playing inside. So if you team Luka up with De'Aaron, Bogdanovich, Luka, and then that solidifies the front three, then you turn around and put Buddy coming off the bench with Justin, you start to build that depth where we can actually look at scoring, not just as much playing only a 5-man rotation to expect us to put up points.
Man, that was perfectly said, Noah. You're preaching to the choir. Eman and I believe the exact same thing in today's NBA. You have to have that second and third playmaker who gives you the versatility to allow your coach to play many different lineups. And you're right. If you do draft Bagley, he's only able to play 4 and 5. And again, I feel like he's a 5 and not really a 4 because he really can't stretch the floor and he really can't play defense. I said that in my Bagley breakdown, and as a matter of fact, since you do have a lot of knowledge on this situation, Eman and I were pretty much talking about yesterday on how we believe a big man should be in terms of just overall. Eman prefers a guy like Capela, who's just a defensive specimen, and I prefer more of a guy like Al Horford. Do you see Bagley in any way, shape, or form close to any of these two of any of those two guys on defense?
On the light side, maybe on Horford, but Horford only really ever locks down or tries to lock down. It was late in those games and when he actually tried to play defense. I really feel that you still almost need that big 4, the stretch 4, and the big 5. You need that person that can play defense, but you can always find one of those guys, those 7-footers late in the draft that are all defensive minded.
Right.
The other one too is just on a little side note. I actually live and work here in Memphis, Tennessee, so I get a lot of flack about not being a Grizzlies fan. But at my restaurant, I got to debate on Chris Wallace, the GM of the Grizzlies, quite often. And when he was in the other day, I had asked him about Luka, and I'd asked him if he was a legit 6'8", if his skills played, and he said that he's every inch of 6'8". And that his skills levy him to being a high floor and a pretty high ceiling. So there's almost no way we can pass on him at 2.
And I agree 100%. You know, I've been on record saying that if the Kings pass up on 2, Vlade will most likely get fired. And honestly, I feel like if the Kings do pass up on 2, it's not him making the pick, and it was more of Brandon Williams making the pick, which in that case, it would probably be Marvin Bagley. But I highly doubt the Kings are going to pass up on such a great talent like Luka Doncic. But I also said that Marvin Bagley would fit best, and it would be a blessing in disguise for the Grizzlies to draft him because, as I said in my breakdown, he needs to be around a great playmaker like Mike Conley and a stretch 5 who can shoot threes and defend in Marc Gasol. I think that'd be the best situation for him to succeed early on and really enhance his skill set, which is speed and motor. How do you feel about that?
I completely agree with you. But the problem that Memphis is finding, and we're seeing a lot of it here, is how healthy is Mike going to be? I mean, Mike misses a ton of games, and then you got this year the effort cropped up with Gasol when he didn't have Mike around, and he was upset, and he kind of pouted and didn't play up to his talent this year. And both those guys are now getting into those 30-year ranges where they're starting to age a little bit, getting towards the end of those high-end contracts. So, I mean, he'll still play well with them. I think Bagley's best spot would be there, not Atlanta.
Right. I agree.
I wanted to ask you why I got you on here. Rondi, do you think he's in the Luka side since they've been over in Greece seeing him play yet again?
Do I think Vlade is going to choose him, or what'd you ask?
No, the owner. Do you think he's actually more on the side of going to try and draft Luka? Do you think his input will kind of force Vlade towards Luka?
I think Vlade and Peja love Luka, and Vlade used to work for Real Madrid, so he knows a lot about him. Again, Real Madrid had Luka at 13 years old, so he's been in their system for a long time now. And Peja is very well connected in Europe. And in terms of Vivek, honestly, I think it's going to come down to Vlade or Brandon Williams making that pick. And again, if it's Brandon Williams, I hate to say it, but I think he'll go Bagley. But if indeed it is Vlade, and I'm sure it will be Vlade making the pick, he's going to pick Luka Doncic. I just feel like there's a lot of smoke screen out there, and he just hasn't wanted to reveal his hand. I mean, there's no need to say, oh, I'm going to draft Luka Doncic right now, because then that puts the organization in a tough fold, right? So I think it's going to be Luka Doncic. Honestly, I see all this social media about him falling. I'm like, dude, he's not falling. Stop it. The other teams want him to fall, which makes sense, but he's not gonna fall.
I agree with you. Well, hey, man, thanks for the call, and we'll catch up with you soon.
And what was your name?
It's Noah.
Hey, Noah, I really appreciate you calling from Memphis, man. A great call, by the way. Thank you so much for the support.
Oh, thanks, man. Take care.
All right, brother.
Awesome call.
That was one of the best calls we've ever taken. I'm going to say it was the best call we've ever taken. Shout out to Noah. But again, let's recreate that conversation. And again, for future things, we're going to put a GoPro with the mic in there because we have and we drop a lot of knowledge sometimes in those situations that we get passionate about those conversations. What do you see? What do you look forward into a player? Like, I know you said you value IQ the most, which we agree on that. We both do, but you value IQ more in a wing and not a big. Explain yourself a little bit.
So my theory, and this is based off when I look at the Kings. When I look at the Kings, I don't see, the wings being athletic and have superior IQ like the Boston Celtics over there with Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They have athletic wings, and then they're big, being Al Horford or Baines isn't the most. Like, if you switch a guard on him, they're not going to lock down a guard. But what they do have is multiple wings from 1 to 4. And I don't see that in the Kings. What I see in the Kings is a bit more slower in Bogdan and Buddy, and in Luka Doncic, me prophesy that he will be a king. When I see guys like that, I feel like what will complement them more is a big who can move laterally quick enough to pick up a switch and then come back and at least contest a shot, when someone does blow past our wings. Because I'm not gonna lie and say the Kings will be a good defensive team in terms of the wing position. I think they can play good team defense if they get the X's and O's and just do their job. They need to lead. The wings need to lead their player, whoever it may be, to drive into the paint. And whoever is going to be in the paint, whether it be Harry Giles, Willie Cauley-Stein, or Costa, needs to be able to contest the shot, not necessarily block it, but just contest it and maybe change their shooting form, their layups. And then I think that will make the Kings most effective on the defensive end. I see it working out like that. So for me, I would prefer a big man that can move laterally, like quick. And I see like a guy like Capela, I see the physical tools in Bagley to be able to move laterally, but for some reason he doesn't have that motor to move laterally on defense. And that's my biggest question mark. And I ask you that. And I ask you, what's your reason why you think Bagley doesn't move as quick as he can on defense?
Again, I just feel like it's just his anticipation skills, his awareness on defense. I don't believe guys develop that throughout the years. People say it's possible, and we may have few examples of that, but I don't think people give enough credit to having awareness, having anticipatory skills like that on defense, and just having that hustle on defense. So again, and I'll use this analogy on a smaller scale. I'm pretty good with my skills on defense. I'm not the fastest, most athletic, and there are guys who obviously are, but sometimes I predict what their moves are going to be because I do have anticipation skills. And a guy who has great anticipation skills is Chris Paul. That's at 5'11", 6 foot, whatever he is. He's been able to be in the league that long because he's that smart. He kills you with his brain and not his athleticism. So when I see people say, well, you have to be born with a certain, athletic ability, Marvin Bagley has that. Ben McLemore had all those skills. He had the jumping ability, supreme athleticism, etc. But then I used this yesterday in our conversation. prospects don't have 5-6 years to develop that feel for the game. You either have it or you don't. If you don't develop it in the first 2 years, you're going to get traded more than likely because fans are impatient. Fans want wins right away. You think the Magic wouldn't have liked to have Victor Oladipo develop his entire game in 6 years, which is essentially what it took him? No, but it just happens that they were desperate. They needed a guy who was proven, and they went out for Serge Ibaka. They made the trade, and then it didn't work out for Victor in Oklahoma, even though he did get better. And he always talks about how he became a workhorse when he played with Russell Westbrook. So my point is, the big point is, guys don't have 5-6 years to develop. As much as we want to say they do, they don't, because fans get impatient with guys. It's that simple. And I feel like Marvin Bagley having such weak defensive awareness and skills on that end will not help him at the next level. He's not going to go up against slower guards and slower, big men. He's going to go up against super athletes just like him. And maybe they're not as athletic as him, but you better believe they're as good as him and stronger than him. And that's another knock on his body, too. He has a slender frame. He's not DeAndre Ayton in that sense. So when you ask me, do I believe he'll become a good defender or why he isn't a good defender, that's the reason. He just doesn't have the defensive IQ on that end. And for the most part, many of those players don't. And you ask me, can he develop that? He can develop that, but it's all about what his personality is like. Does he care more about his offensive stats, or is he about the team? Is he about winning? I know when we interviewed Donovan Mitchell, I genuinely felt like he was about the team, right? He said, I take pride on defense. I don't care if I score. I don't care if I play. And if I do play, I'm going to give it my all. And those type of things matter to me. So it's going to be interesting to see what he says. And if he says, if he's more comfortable playing the 4 or the 5. Again, my reasoning behind him not playing the 4 is because I feel like he really can't stretch the floor out. And he is so one-sided player. I mean, he's such a strong left-handed player and such a weak right-handed player that I feel like all these coaches will force him to the right. And when that happens, he's going to struggle. How do you feel about that?
I mean, your counter to Marvin being effective offensively is putting a 6'8" wing on him, like a Jakar Sampson. If you put him on Marvin Bagley, then what? You know what I mean?
Exactly. So my counter would be putting a smaller wing on him, because he's really not going to overpower you in terms of strength in his first 2 years, at least his rookie year. So in terms of his effectiveness, which is why I hope he gets drafted to the Grizzlies, because if you have a healthy Mike Conley and a healthy Marc Gasol, that alleviates a lot of the pressure off of Marvin Bagley. If he goes to the Kings, he is the go-to head honcho right away. And that's not what you want if you're a Marvin Bagley fan, because if you put that type of pressure on him, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of expectations for this kid at number 2. That's why I think he'll be lost, because the Kings don't have the pieces yet to complement his skill set. Does that make any sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense.
So,
and then now describe your ideal big man that you're looking for. I told you mine was a big who knows X's and O's, but also can move laterally, like quick enough to switch on wings.
Right. And when I asked you who would you prefer, Capela or Horford, you said Capela. And the reason why I said Horford was
on the Kings. I feel like Capela would be more effective.
Oh, so but just overall on any other team, you'd say Horford?
It depends. It's situational. I mean, who are my wings? Yeah.
I mean, that's fair. Again, I think it's great to always disagree on some things, and it's never fun to always agree on the same thing. But our foundation is the same, right? We value basketball IQ, high basketball IQ, and feel for the game more, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think where our misconjunction is that I believe Horford doesn't get enough credit of being a great defensive anchor because he's not as fast as Capela on defense, but he uses his strength and he uses his angles correctly and his motor to really anchor that defense. His communication skills are awesome. which is why I think the Celtics are so good defensively. And it does help having the Marcus Smart out there. But at the same time, Horford is your center, and Horford is starting for most of the games, and he was exceptional in the playoffs, and he really showed the world that he doesn't have to average 20 and 10 to be one of the best bigs in the game. Draymond Green is a great testament to that, right? He doesn't average big time numbers, but he's super effective when it comes down to it. And both guys contribute to winning. They sacrifice their individual stats to winning. That's what you want in the center. And that's why I think he's more capable of fitting in, of being a better player than Capela, because he can stretch out the floor. He can drive and play make for other people. And I'm talking about Horford. So that's why I have an edge over Capela. And trust me, I love Capela. You know, I made you into a believer. You really weren't a believer, but you kind of realize that, you know, it wasn't just James Harden making him look that good. It was just his ability to anchor that defense, and just his IQ is off the charts on defense. Make no mistake about it. But that's why I would choose Horford. And I think you and some other people are not giving him enough credit. I feel like you guys think he's super slow, but I feel like he can stay in front of Ben Simmons and some wings. Like he really can stay in front of wings, which to me is very important. And if you have a playmaking wing like a LeBron James, I feel comfortable Horford trying to stay in front of the guy, because he's going to use his intellectual ability on defense and his strength. And he gave Joel Embiid a hard time on defense. So definitely I give the edge to Al Horford. What do you guys think? Join the conversation right now. Would you rather have Capela or Horford? It's a really good issue to have. Like I would love to have that option for sure. Because both of those guys are really, really good. And some people are saying, even if the Kings selected Luka, what's your thoughts on 24-year-old Rodney Hood as a potential free agent? I don't want to get close to that guy. Oh my God, stay away from Rodney Hood. He is not a good player. He is average. And I'll be nice. I was going to say below average, but he's average.
A very inconsistent player. He's like George Hill, basically.
And even yesterday, I mean, I feel like these guys with low basketball IQ put the ball down and they get it smacked. Like KD has the ball up here, so when he's making his move, his triple threat, you can't touch him. When you bring the ball like Papa used to do it from the bottom up, that's an easy smackdown. And like, why put yourself in that situation? Again, that's up here. And if you haven't realized that yet in an entire year of basketball, and that's why I question some of these guys, do they watch film? I mean, go on Kobe's detail and go watch that. I mean, it's really going to help you. So it bugs me that you get paid millions of dollars, but yet they don't really put the work in the film room. And to me, that's how you develop basketball IQ and awareness. And again, most of these guys are not willing to put the work in, which is why fans get impatient with them, and we end up seeing these guys on different teams. You know, the Hassan Whiteside type players. He wasn't effective until he was in Europe and the NBA G League. So it wasn't the fault of the Kings. It was the fault of the player in terms of him not willing to put the work in. So now I would say Capela's a nice player. He would be a great fit on the King. The problem is, do you think he is worth a max contract? And I'll throw that out to you. Is he worth the max contract?
On the King, in terms of the Kings, because the Kings have so much cap space.
They paid him $19 million. You better pay Capela that money.
Yeah. No doubt for me. I'd pay the man. Who else is going to come? You know what I mean? Unless LeBron decides to come to Sacramento, but I don't see that happening. So I would throw a max at Capela. I think a three-year with the team option, third year max.
I would give him the full 4 years because he is young, and that type of guy will always be expendable if you decide to trade him, and teams will always need a guy like that, especially in today's modern NBA. I think someone said, Jacob Velasquez said, JJJ, are you talking about Jaren Jackson Jr.? If you are, we love him defensively. He has a lot of Clint Capela in him with the ability to stretch the floor. I don't know if you watched the video yesterday, Eman, that I sent you. That dude was just, obviously, again, everybody looks good in these workout videos, but what I want to point out is his mechanics look a lot more fluid. Did you see that video?
I have not. I haven't checked it out yet. You know that I've seen his shooting form. I'm not a big fan of it, but
But it's consistent.
It's not a traditional shooting form, but it works for him, and it goes in. You can see his shooting percentage. Did well.
So Brandon Rogers says, speaking of which, what are your guys' thoughts on Iman Shumpert opting in? My thoughts is, again, I didn't want him to opt in, but we knew he was going to opt in because of the market. But my only hope was maybe he goes to a playoff contender. I know he's likable amongst his peers, and maybe if the Rockets cut some meat off, sign LeBron, they can go out and sign this dude out of minimum wage, or the minimum for a vet
for players.
Then that would work. But he opted in. I don't blame him. $11 million is a lot of money that he may never see again. So that's my take on it.
I see it two ways. I see it as you traded George Hill for Shumpert. You basically traded 2 more years at 19 for Iman Shumpert, 1 year at 11 million. So I see it that way as a positive. Another way I see it is throughout the last season, I noticed that we missed, besides Vince Carter, we missed that tough-nosed guy. Before it was DeMarcus and Matt Barnes. And, when other teams needed to be checked, coach would throw those guys in there and they'll go check players. I feel like Iman Shumpert can bring that, for this organization, a lot like Vince Carter did. He would check the other players, but this is like a younger version who can still, hopefully, depending on how his injury is, but can still go out there and rough up some players if needed. I think every team needs like that Marcus Smart type player.
Is he that guy though? I question him being that guy, and if he is that guy, the $11 million is well worth it, right? But I would still go out, and depending on what you do in the draft, I would think about signing Marcus Smart, and he's on my radar. And again, if you're going to offer George Hill $19 million, you have to offer Marcus Smart $19 million, who is still relatively young. And I think he's 26. So you offer that guy and not a 31-year-old $19 million. And this guy is a hound on defense, one of the best defensive players in the NBA. So you definitely – and can you imagine, though, if you had Capela and Marcus Smart, how much better your team becomes defensively? The mindset changes. That trickles down to your players. You you draft Luka Doncic. His ability to pass the ball trickles down on your team, and it's such a positive effect that everyone starts playing selfless basketball and playing for one another. You have a playoff team, guys. If you go out and sign Marcus Smart, draft Luka Doncic, and sign Clint Capela, that would make you a playoff team in the Western Conference. Make no mistake about it. And we haven't even talked about the development of a De'Aaron Fox, of a Justin Jackson, of a Harry Giles, of a Buddy Hield, of a Bogi Bogdanovic in the second year. That is a playoff team. How would you feel about that?
You're making me very excited. That's how I feel about that when you tell me that. No, I would. I think literally you could have a total defensive lineup out there if you wanted. If you had Iman Shumpert, Marcus Smart, Clint Capela,
Garrett Temple. We don't even know if he's going to opt in or not.
Yeah. I feel like he still has options throughout the league. I think even if he doesn't come back, I think he'll have a spot in the NBA for sure.
He would have helped LeBron James a lot more than all these.
They got the wrong guy. As soon as they traded for George Hill, I was like, what are they doing? It was Garrett Temple that was the defender, not George Hill. George Hill was the inconsistent, sometimes shows up on offense guy. No, but I don't know. I do feel like the Kings, Dave Yeager would have a lot of fun in terms of combinations, putting guys out there in terms of a little bit of defense, a little bit of offense, a little bit of playmaking, a little bit of showboating and all the dunks and all that. He'll have a lot of fun. Like, this team will be very, very versatile. If your plan came to pass. I don't even know if we have enough roster spots for that though.
Well, yeah, they would have to use the stretch provision on Shumpert and hope that Garrett Temple doesn't opt-in, which that would be 2 spots, and you might have to cut bait with someone else. But someone said, what's your take on Frank Mason as the backup point guard in year 2? If we took Smart, do you think it would hide him on the depth chart? Go ahead, answer that.
I feel like he would. He'd be taking the backseat. I think you'd see a lot of Fox at the point guard, Bogey at the point, and not necessarily at the point, but like the combinations would be bigger guys. Like Luka, he can play make for you, Bogdan can play make for you, and Fox can play make for you. And I think Frank Mason would be the fallout guy. But I mean, injuries do happen. I'm not gonna say like, oh, everyone's gonna be healthy the entire season. I know injuries will happen, and I know he just has to have a mindset of I'm ready to go. Next man up. I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna do what I do. And if he earns more minutes, so be it. I expect him to be the fallout guy if this plan came to pass.
Right. So someone asked, do you think the Kings have enough cap space to get Smart and Clint? I do think they have it if they do what I just said, which would be stretch Iman Shumpert, Garen Temple not opting in, and then possibly having to trade away AZ. I mean, not even, because if you trade away Zebo, you're probably going to get back $12 million or $14 million in return. So yes, I would have to go back and double check on all the numbers, but a combination of a Smart and Clint Capela to me makes you very, very effective in the West. So that would be a great situation. I do want to talk about Trae Young and Jaren Jackson and Marvin Bagley. Which one of those 3 players do you think would fit the best with the Atlanta Hawks?
Say that again. Trae Young, Marvin Bagley.
Jackson, Marvin Bagley. Which one of those do you think would fit the best on the Atlanta Hawks? Because they have number 3.
The Hawks. I don't know if this is true, but I've seen that their point guard's name. What's the name? Schroeder. He totally deleted everything Atlanta related on Instagram. No, he totally wiped everything off. I don't know if this is true, but Twitter has it as they're moving on from Schroeder and potentially looking for another point guard. If this is the case, I think the next fill position will be, either Isaiah Thomas going to Atlanta if Schroeder leaves, or they're going out for Trae Young would be, the next best fit at the point guard position. But if this is all false and they know they're keeping their guy, then I would go with Marvin Bagley in Atlanta.
So you would have a Marvin Bagley and a John Collins, or would you rather see a JJ and a John Collins?
I would go. I personally feel like Marvin Bagley is ready to make an impact on an NBA team right now, and I would take him over Jaren Jackson. So for them, they're like the Kings. You just have to take best player available. Right
on. So go for it again, Esh Noah. People are, I don't know if they're going to call him, but is there a Capela-like guy in the second round? That's always a difficult question to answer. I mean, I haven't released my top 25, and my top 25 on my big board does not mean my mock draft. It means that how I value a certain prospect. I'm going to release that soon, probably 2 days before the actual draft or the day before the draft, because I'm always swapping players because I want to be right. And the more I watch about a certain guy, either I like him more or I like him less, and then I swap. But for the most part, I have my top 25, maybe top 27, honorable mentions. So I'll definitely release that and give you guys some insight on why I think certain guys are rated higher than others. I do have a lot of older guys on there, so I'll give you a name. The guy from the guy we just interviewed the other day from the small point guard. I'm slipping on his name, but
from Kentucky.
No, the one on the vlog.
Oh, okay. Carter.
Yeah, so definitely Javon Carter is in my top 25, and you have to put some respect on his name because he was there for 4 years and he did a great job. And I feel like having an impact allows you to be in my top 25. So I definitely value IQ and age and maturity, and that guy is mature and all about his business. So definitely he's gonna make my top 25 no matter what. And also I'm gonna go with Brucein from the national champions, player of the year, a junior in high school. I feel like he can come in like Frank Mason, make an impact, and be your backup point guard for many years, and possibly start on some nights when your starting point guard is out. Definitely Jalen Brucein is a player to have on your radar. I mean, the dude is a baller. There's a reason why he was player of the year. So Willie Cauley-Stein isn't the same level on an inside D as Capela. So talk about the differences between Capela and Willie Cauley-Stein, man.
This is always heartbreaking. I don't know why. Willie was supposed to be Capela from scouting reports. You know, we basically envisioned Willie becoming literally Capela, be able to switch on guards,
right, and
block shots and be like, you know, this special human being. It didn't turn out that way. I think he feels like he's able to convert his game, an offensive game, and become effective on the offensive end. And to his credit, he's done average on offense. You know, he's done a lot better than Capela in terms of offensively. You can give Willie the ball at the elbow and he'll make a pass, he'll make a read. I trust him doing that now. I wouldn't say he's at the top of the list in terms of guys who I want doing that, but he's shown that he's capable of doing that. And I think, you know, he's earning himself, you know, a longer NBA career by becoming a more offensive-oriented player who has defensive capabilities. So the difference between Capela and Willie is Capela is all in on defense, and he will only get paid if he's only good at defense and rebounding, you know, which is what I love. And then Willie is, I will get paid by becoming a versatile big man. So I see there's a difference there. There's a mindset difference, of course.
By versatile, you mean inconsistent?
Yeah, I mean, would you expect that? You don't expect him to convert over a night and become a totally dominant offensive player. It's going to be some nights you feel it going. Sometimes you've seen this team before. I know how they play. Other teams, if it's an Eastern Conference team, you see them twice a year, and then you don't know how they play, and you play bad. So,
and do you feel like when you sugarcoat versatility, that goes back to me saying players don't have enough time to develop 5-6 years?
Yeah.
And yeah, right.
yeah. If he becomes like the versatile big we envision, I don't think it'll be in Sacramento because he is running out of time. Even though he had all the time in Sac, like there is no excuse. Like we need him, you know. Like the past 3 years, like the Kings needed, you know, Willie Cauley-Stein to be their backup. Now it's like, well, the Kings have a lot of bigs coming up, and if they can potentially draft another big and then boot him out, so we'll know where the Kings stand after June 21st for sure.
So Noah is asking what Giles can become on the defensive end. I really don't know how to answer that. It's not fair for me to say he's going to be good or he's going to be bad. I know his basketball IQ is really good from what I've been told and from what I've watched from him. But at the same time, as Coach Yeager always says, we don't really know until he plays a game with the bright lights on him. And yeah, he looks good on practice. Teammates love him, and he's made a lot of impact, a huge impact on defense and on offense in practice. But we never know if that'll really translate to a real game. So definitely keep your eye on that for the Summer League Classic in Sacramento. There's 4 teams, 3 California teams, and the Miami Heat, since the Clippers are not in it, which to me is ridiculous. But it is what it is. We'll be there giving you guys frontline coverage as always. Kushked said, you guys sound like you don't know anything about basketball, especially the guy in the hat. Well, we appreciate your time, brother, and you trying to come in and join in. We don't take that personal. As a matter of fact, we encourage you to leave us a rating on iTunes. I actually saw a negative one on iTunes saying that I don't allow my guests, and in this situation, E-Man, since he is the guest, to talk. And since I guess I don't know how to conversate with my guests, that was one of the big critiques, and that I only ask robotic questions. Now, I feel like this podcast is flowing very well. So hopefully that same guy can go out there and change that comment. And maybe you guys that are on the live stream can go and drop a comment and tell us how you really feel, because that really matters. You know, it helps us rank higher on the podcast and platform on all the platforms, right? iTunes, Spotify, etc., Google Play. So definitely, if you guys can drop a comment on iTunes or on Google Play or Spotify, that would mean a lot to all of us. And don't forget that this episode of the CK Podcast is presented by Valley Tire Center. Go out. They're giving, and follow them on all social media platforms. They're giving out NBA tickets in Section 106 mostly all season long, guys. So you guys need to follow them. And if you ever are in need of a lift job, of great tires, of a brake job, they will take care of you. Definitely tell them that you heard this special on the Cowbell Kingdom podcast. Thank you to Valley Tire Center for believing in us. And I want you guys to believe in them. So someone said, Leo, you're fine. Don't trip. If the Kings pick Porter at number 2, how would you feel, E-Man?
That's a stretch. It's a stretch. You take. I don't want to take Porter at 2. Like,
tell us how you really feel, man.
I wouldn't be mad if they picked him up at 5, 6, 7, but at 2, with every single question mark, with no medical statement released, with nothing, you just based on the 2 practices you're gonna go watch him at and the individual workout, you're gonna take him at 2. I will not be a fan of him at 2. I will be a fan if they trade back and take, pick up assets, but they better give you a lot for that number 2 pick. But at 2, I don't like him at 2. I like him 5, 6, 7.
Right. And Kush Kid, yeah, we want Luka Doncic. I'm on record, E-Man's on record.
Yeah.
The Kings need to draft Luka Doncic. So if that's what you mean by we don't know what we're talking about, I'm sorry if you came in late, but we're definitely supporters of Luka Doncic. We've known about him for 2 years. We've been following him, watching a lot of him since November, since the King season was pretty much over at that time. So we were already looking at guys who would potentially impact the Sacramento Kings, and we've done all we can to bring you guys the best Luka Doncic coverage. We still haven't released our strengths and weaknesses about Luka Doncic. That's coming up. So is Jaren Jackson. So those 2 videos are coming up as well. So stay tuned for that. And there are some really good videos out there. So shout out to our guys at Dime Drop, Frankie Vision. They got really good videos on them already. So, always showing love to our colleagues and friends out there. Everybody can succeed. So we're not about that hate job. We're about supporting each other and throwing out positivity, which is how I felt when the Kings got a top 3 pick. I felt like they were going to get a top. It's funny because we're going to release that video. I know you.
I have the video still. Leo was positive as fudge as soon as the Kings got
April 6th. I think it was April 6th. I don't know when it was, but I said they're going to get a top 3 pick. But other than that, go get your merch, man. We got this nice soft Cowboy Kingdom shirt. This one's actually a custom made one, but we're definitely trying to get these soft ones for you guys to get the best quality possible. We're doing a CK hat giveaway soon, probably today. So that should be fun. Hopefully you guys.
I got mine.
Hopefully you guys enter the giveaway. Someone said what happened to Matt George. Matt George is full time at 1140 KCK now, but I was just on his podcast the other day. I think it was Friday. So definitely check that out. We love Matt, and we're always talking back. We text almost on a very regular basis. So that's a very, very good friend. I think said I'm gonna fly to Sacramento. So people are definitely having a good time on this podcast.
Leo, how do you see it in terms of like how the fans, like people would say 60% want Luka, 40% want Bagley. How do you see the percentages between Jaren, Luka, Porter, and Marvin?
In terms of what the fan, obviously last year, we talked about this too. We said everybody like 98% was De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah,
the consensus. Some people,
except you.
Someone wanted Dennis Smith. I get it.
You wanted Lauri Markkanen.
Right, right.
I'm joking.
No, and I did,
Not at 5.
for a majority of that time. Yeah, I wanted him at 7 for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted him at 7 for sure, and I wanted Mitchell at 10. But it didn't happen that way. I was really happy with Fox. I'm still happy with Fox, honestly. I think he has a bright future ahead of him. But in terms of the percentages this year, because you have number 2 and there are so many options, pretty much the entire draft after Aiden, right? You're not going to get a 90% any prospect. So as of right now, I feel like I have a good pulse of the city. I feel like 65% want Luka Doncic, which makes a majority, and that's good enough. So, and I feel like a lot of them are realizing how special of a prospect he really is. I know Tony and Mike on Facebook were like, man, you really sold him on us. And I was like, not really. I mean, he sells himself. I don't have to say. I just have to tell you to keep watching him, and you will fall in love with this game, because today's NBA is all about playmaking, ball handling, shooting, and that's what he brings to the table. Again, his percentages from 3 are in essence not good, but you have to see the type of shots he was taking and the type of shots he's going to get when he plays with better playmakers like Bogey and De'Aaron Fox, hopefully. So
and Willie Cauley-Stein.
And Willie Cauley-Stein.
And Harry Giles.
So definitely Noah confirmed from the GM, Wallace, Mr. Wallace from the Grizzlies, that he is everything 6'8". And I like to think that he might even be 6'9", honestly. With shoes, he's probably 6'9". So, and I believe he has a positive wingspan. And when I mean by positive, I mean it's bigger than his height. So I'm thinking a 7'1" wingspan, which is 7'2", which is pretty good for a man his size, 225. He can play small ball 4 in certain lineups, which is why he's so special. You can play him from 1 through 4. That gives you an abundance of options for Jaeger, for any coach, right? And hopefully Jaeger transitions and appeases to his personnel. Maybe he plays a free flow offense next year, and he understands that a dual horns offset offense is not the best thing for this team. And maybe he was just trying things out last year because he didn't have much talent. I understand. I'm very curious to see how he does as a coach. Zebo's going to start. Oh, man. If Zebo starts, I'm going to be upset.
Zebo is the reason why you run those sets.
What do you guys think about Mo and his 308 half-court offense? Obviously not with the ball in his hand. Who's he talking about? Mo what?
Mo Bamba.
Oh, Mo Bamba and his fast. I'm going to let you answer that, because you pretty much said yesterday you don't care about his wingspan. That doesn't impress you. You don't care about his time. Go ahead and explain that to you.
No, like I said, my big, I don't care if you're a couple inches shorter than 7 foot. I just need you to keep up laterally, because Mo Bamba will be switched onto guards, into the Mike Conleys, Steph Curry's, into the Westbrooks. And if you're on the West Coast, I feel bad for you. There's a lot of point guards in the West that are just going to toast you every single time. I don't care if you run up and down at 3.5 seconds. I don't care about that. I don't care how long your wingspan is. I just need you to keep up with these guards when they make a switch on you, because they're going to
quartet.
Exactly. They're purposely going to attack Mo Bamba until he gets into foul trouble, and then he's out the game and he's not effective anymore. Now all of a sudden you have a potential bust. Right. But if he does work out on offense, I mean, if he develops a shot, no one's blocking that, obviously. He'll be a fun project. I'm not saying he's going to be a bust. He could be a very fun project on the right team.
That's the key word, on the right team. If he goes to the Celtics, that's the right team for him. I think he'd be the ideal fit on the Boston Celtics. So, and because they have the luxury to say, you know what, if you're in foul trouble, I'm just going to put in the Al Horford in.
There it is.
Boom. But other than that, man, I think that's going to do it, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. You guys can listen to the cleaner audio version probably later today on Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn Radio. We're everywhere. Thank you guys so much for all the support. Any final words, man? I know Monday's a big day.
Stay tuned for an epic vlog coming out either Tuesday or Wednesday about Marvin Bagley. It's going to be an epic vlog. You know, I'm really excited to see Marvin Bagley. Leo, sign us off.
All right, everybody. Thank you guys so much for the support. You know, let's share this. Let's get to 50,000 subscribers. We're growing every single day. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. And we'll see you guys on the next video.